On July 17, the Russian satellite news agency RIA Novosti reported that the Russian Kremlin announced that Russia suspended the Black Sea grain outbound agreement. According to the report, Russian presidential press secretary and Kremlin spokesman Peskov said that Moscow has suspended its participation in the Black Sea grain outbound agreement. The grain agreement has been suspended. The Russian side will return to the implementation of the agreement as soon as the Russian part of the matter is implemented. Affected by this, the Chicago wheat futures prices straight up, intraday once soared more than 3%. On the eve of the expiration of the agreement, the international multi-party heated debate. In June, Russian President Vladimir Putin warned that Russia was considering withdrawing from the agreement, and accused the West of deceiving Russia and failing to fulfill any commitment to push Russian agricultural products onto the world market. On July 15, Putin said in a telephone conversation with South African President Ramaphosa that the obligations set out in the Memorandum of Understanding between Russia and the United Nations to remove obstacles to the export of Russian foodstuffs and fertilizers had still not been fulfilled. Putin emphasized that the main goal of this agreement, i.e. to supply food to countries in need, including the African continent, has also not been achieved so far. As RIA Novosti reported on July 12, UN Secretary-General's spokesman Dierik said at a press conference that UN Secretary-General Guterres sent a letter to Russian President Vladimir Putin on July 11 with a proposal on the Black Sea Food Agreement. Recall that previously, through the good offices of the United Nations and Turkey, on July 22, 2022, Russia and Ukraine signed an agreement on the resumption of the outbound shipment of agricultural products from Black Sea ports between the two countries, respectively, with the United Nations and Turkey, in order to help resolve the global food crisis. The agreement was initially valid for 120 days and has since undergone 3 extensions, most recently on May 18 of this year, when the Russian side agreed to extend the agreement for 60 days. According to the initial consultations, the parties agreed to set up a joint coordination center to provide security for the export-transport of Ukrainian grains and other agricultural products through the Black Sea, as well as to guarantee the access of Russian grains and fertilizers to international markets. What will be the impact of Russia's suspension of the grain agreement? After the suspension of the Black Sea grain transportation agreement, the market began to worry about the global food supply. Ukraine, Russia is known as the world's breadbasket. According to the World Bank's data show that before the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, Russia's wheat exports ranked first in the world, Ukraine's barley exports ranked second in the world. In addition, Ukraine is also one of the world's largest exporters of corn, sunflower oil. Russia is the second largest producer of sunflower seeds, accounting for the proportion of global production once as high as 27%. After the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the disruption of Ukraine's and Russia's outbound shipments of agricultural products via Black Sea ports led to a significant spike in global food prices, which at one point reached record highs in March 2022, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, Food Price Index. According to Globe, Wales, head of the Global Food and Water Security Program at the U.S. Center for Strategic and International Studies, SISE, described the Russian-Ukrainian conflict as a war waged by one major agricultural producer against another that is affecting global food prices. After the signing of the Black Sea Grain Transportation Agreement, Ukrainian agricultural products by sea to resume part of the export, only to reverse the trend of soaring global food prices. FAO latest data show that in June this year, the international food prices to continue to decline, 122.3 points, has been compared to the highest point in March 2022 slipped 23%. The current coincides with the first anniversary of the signing of the Black Sea Grain Outbound Agreement. According to data on the JCC website, over 32 million tons of grain have been shipped from 3 Ukrainian ports to 45 countries on 3 continents in the framework of the agreement over the past year. According to calculations based on data from the UN, Ukraine's Ministry of Agriculture and Customs, Ukraine exported 50.6 million tons of grain during the period of the agreement's implementation from August 2022 to June 2023, valued at about $9.8 billion, roughly 70.8 billion rupees. And once the agreement breaks down, Ukraine will lose up to $500 million per month. Meanwhile, the World Food Programme, WFP, has also used the program to ship at least 725,000 tons of wheat and other agricultural products over the past year to Kenya, Somalia, Yemen, and other regions to aid the needy there. In 2021 and 2022, the WFP procured 50% of Ukraine's wheat for international aid. So far in 2023, that share has risen to 80%. The International Rescue Committee has described the Black Sea Food Transfer Agreement as a lifeline for 79 countries and 349 million people on the front lines of food insecurity. In the course of the implementation of the food agreement, Russia's requirements for exporting its own grain were completely ignored by the West and other participants. A situation arose in which the majority of Ukrainian grain was supplied to EU countries, while African and Middle Eastern countries received only about 10%. Now, the Russian president has put forward a tough condition. The Russian side is ready to fully resume the terms of the grain agreement only if Russia's conditions are met and Russian grain is shipped to Asian and African countries. Experts say that for China everything is simple, because China is a friendly country. Russia is ready to immediately respond to the request of the Chinese side to provide China with the necessary amount of grain in accordance with the wishes of Beijing. Why is Russia the largest wheat exporter? Russia is located in Asia and Europe, is a land across Asia and Europe, two continents of the country. Russia is the world's largest country, its total land area of about 17.09 million square kilometers. Russia with a huge land area and tough national character, known as the world as the polar bear. Although Russia has a huge land area, but in our impression, Russia in agriculture is not very prominent. In the international agricultural market, we can think of exporting countries, usually the United States, Brazil, Australia and Canada and other countries. But in terms of natural conditions, Russia has vast arable land, flat terrain, fertile soil and plenty of water. With the exception of a lack of heat, the rest of the conditions are very favorable. Global warming, which is currently facing mankind, has led to an increase in the average temperature of the Earth, which will gradually improve the heat conditions in Russia, making it more suitable for agricultural cultivation and thus increasing food production. Russia's production of agricultural products has been increasing with the expansion of the sown area, increased fertilization, and the application of modern agricultural technology. At the end of October 2019, the Russian Ministry of Agriculture predicted that Russia's grain exports would grow in 2019, with data showing that from 2018 to 2019, Russia exported 43.3 million tons of grain, of which 32.5 million tons of wheat, surpassing the United States and Canada to become the world's largest wheat exporter. The Russian Ministry of Agriculture also expects that between 2019 and 2020, July 1, 2019 to June 30, 2020, Russia's grain production can reach 118 million tons to 120 million tons, of which the production of wheat will reach 78 million tons. The total volume of Russia's grain exports will reach 45 million tons, of which wheat exports will reach 36 million tons. In terms of agricultural production, Russia does have great potential, which will continue to grow if heat conditions in Russia continue to improve against the backdrop of global warming. At present, many of Russia's agricultural products, including food crops, etc., have realized self-sufficiency and become an important food exporter. In addition to meat and other agricultural products, imports have also been substantially reduced. Of course, some such as fruits and other agricultural products still need to rely on imports. Russia's southeastern region, just bordering China's northeastern region, this region also has a large area of fertile black soil, and in the future can in China in agricultural production to carry out in-depth cooperation. What are your thoughts on Russia's termination of the Black Sea grain deal? Welcome to leave a message in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to us.